massive, just absolutely massive amounts of key news and information we're going to be covering today. We're going to phase out Bilderberg coverage, but finally, here is a boil down of the best moments as the globalists were confronted in Europe, there in Austria.
Limousines with darkened windows converged on a hotel where private security guards imposed ironclad control. The limos carried royalty, political power brokers, and industrial titans to a secret meeting that will last all weekend. It's known as the Bilderberg Group. Could their objective be world domination?
The Bilderberg Group consists of the heads of all of the managing roundtable groups that steer individual countries. Picture the elite power structure of the world as a giant pyramid, with only the elite of the elite at the tip top of the capstone. The group has been so secretive that until the mid-1980s, the controlled corporate media denied its existence. Into the late 1990s, coverage only consisted of rare one-line mentions. With the rise of the alternative media, their stranglehold on information has begun to slip. In Bilderberg's long history, many reporters attempting to cover the group have been harassed, detained, and even jailed.
The thing that first impressed me most was columns in 1957 by the late, great Westbrook Pegler, widely syndicated columnist. He wrote two lengthy columns about how approximately 100 leaders of international finance, heads of state, high public officials were meeting behind armed guards and closed doors on Jekyll Island, sealed off. What are these powerful internationalists doing? And why is it so secret? Why do they have armed guards outside? Why is it sealed off? The newspapers totally ignore it. Not a word. Total blackout in the United States. 120 of the world's most powerful men, heads of state from Europe, high officials of the United States government, Treasury, White House, state, defense. They're setting the world agenda now. The reason they want secrecy is because they're doing evil. Evil is done under the cover of darkness. Good works are done in the sunshine.
They're planning the corporate agenda. They're not planning the democratic human journey agenda, in my opinion. Mussolini had a definition, is when the interests of the corporation take completely over from all other interests, and that's fascism.
He said it should probably be called corporatism.
Well, call it corporatism, call it fascism, call it neo-lib, neocon. There's a whole variety of political words, depending on which side of the stripe you come from, to start with, which describes the thing. But what they are describing is the complete end of democracy, the end of what matters to people, the end of what happens to the human journey. And for that reason, I think this is revolting.
To all of you, we tell you, you are not our queens, you are not our kings, you are not our gods. We do not belong to you. We are not your slaves. We stand as free humans, have stood since the beginning of time against the strong men, against the thugs, against the bullies. We will defeat your world government. We will defeat world taxation. We will defeat your control grid. God is on our side. I stand before the creator of the universe, and I ask the creator of the universe, as our founding fathers did in 1776, to lead, guide, and direct us, and to give us the power and the foresight and the understanding and the will to stand against your entire agenda, including your final plan of world population reduction of 80% that Henry Kissinger penned in 1973. You will and you are failing now. Your New World Order will fall. Humanity will defeat you. The answer to 1984 is 1776.
We're going to break. Get ready, start your engines. See the Earth from here, it's infested by technocrats using scientific systems of social control to dumb down and disease the population, the host population, to make them more servile, more manageable. Well, this broadcast is here to ring the alarm bell, to
raise the red flag, to blow the warning trumpet on the parapet, to let the people know that this infestation is taking place. To say that we have a full plate today is a very, very serious understatement. Syndicated radio host George Noory is going to be joining us to give us his take on a wide spectrum of world events for the third hour. In the meantime, we haven't been taking a lot of calls as of late. We'll open the phones up on specific issues. I'd love to hear from callers. And the first round of callers, of course, will be first-time callers. I'll give that number out coming up here in a few minutes. All I ask of the listeners is that they cover one of the news items that I raise. And then you can tie it into anything you want. But I want to focus in on this compendium of information. Let me just go over some of the top stories in the stacks here. Jeb Bush expected to officially announce his running for president today, and he made an announcement along with that he cries and that he's a real person. That's an actual quote. He cries. And Hillary's announcing how she's a real person and a commoner as well, and she cares about women. But Jeb cries, so everything is okay. U.S. Archbishop quits after archdiocese charged with cover-up of pedophilia, and another bishop in the U.S. has resigned as well. And the Vatican is to hold first trial of senior cleric for pedophilia. So they're actually going in to begin trying to ferret out the pedophile network that has basically taken over much of the Catholic Church. And it's not just the Catholic Church, it's Congress, it's government agencies all over the world. That's what this disease does. Over and over again throughout history. From the Bible and Sodom and Gomorrah coming to the door and saying, give us your family, give us your kids. To today, it's the same story. We're going to be looking at that report. GOP leadership's latest Obama trade ploy revealed a small business tax hike that violates the GOP's anti-tax pledge. Well, the goal is shut down small businesses. After all, you didn't build it. That's what globalism is. So we know what the agenda is. Open borders, global corporations, tax exempt, small businesses, tax hikes. That's what Boehner and Ryan and all these people are going to bring you. Isn't that just special? In fact, I just actually found the article. It's out of the Telegraph. Jeb Bush, I cry. I cry. I'm introverted, but I want to be president. Russia says it will retaliate if U.S. weapons stationed on its borders are deployed. Again, Russia says it will retaliate if U.S. weapons are stationed on its borders. We're going to be going over that as well. Here's another headline. Just giving you an idea of what's in the stack here. Michigan police seize kids from family for camping. Just last week, it was an 11-year-old. His parents were an hour late home. They got home at 6. The child got home at 4:30, the 11-year-old, played basketball in his backyard, and was taken from the family. They were charged with neglect. And the news media reported it with a straight face, like they were a horrible family. Everyone I know has had to wait for their parents to get home by the age of 9, 10, 11, 12. But that's not even the issue. Did the youth not know where the hidden key was? It doesn't matter. This is the prison state that we live in. It's the laws that need to be changed, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing, Greece's debt drama, the possible scenarios that could bring down the euro, but 3 or 4 separate times they forced massive tax increases in Greece, massive sell-offs of their infrastructure, and notice it never pays off the debt. It never fixes the problems because it's not designed to. The debts have been rigged by signing countries onto derivatives that are impossible to pay back if you gave the private banks all the debt in the world. But it's the private mega banks that created the derivatives. Continuing, some good news. France bans sale of Monsanto herbicide Roundup in nurseries, in plant stores. In public challenge to Obama, family of drone victim asked, what is the value of an innocent life? Continuing, shock video, rioting migrants attempt to hijack truck heading for the UK. We're going to break that down in a moment. Gangs intent on getting access to country's generous welfare system. And meanwhile, the UN, the Vatican, and every other globalist organization, this is in ABC News, are saying, open the borders up. It's your job to basically take on unlimited third world populations as the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and Latin America collapse. You've got to take all these people on and then give them free everything. And give them voting cards and let them vote. This is how the West is being conquered. And it doesn't help the third world populations at the same time. Before I get into all that, and there's a lot more in science news, in economic news, I'm going to drill into all this news today. There's the huge report on the Supreme Court races the clock on gay marriage, Obamacare, and more. And they're already sending out announcements, trial balloons that, oh, get ready for Obamacare to be reaffirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court a second time. And I've had so many constitutional lawyers on from across the spectrum. The rulings we're seeing out of the Supreme Court are now anti-gun. They were pro-gun just 6 years ago. They are now completely anti-border. They are completely anti-sovereignty. They are totally pro-abortion. So we saw the court turn back towards the Constitution and then suddenly veer. And an example of that, Supreme Court won't revive North Carolina abortion law, saying you've got to show somebody an ultrasound. Now, when you go in at the second trimester, and they know you want to keep the baby, they show you an ultrasound. Basically hoping they can find something wrong so they can convince you to have an abortion. This is how the system is basically geared. Doesn't mean the doctors and nurses themselves are bad. And the Supreme Court says, no, it violates the doctor's free speech to show you the human. So does it violate their free speech if they don't show you holes in your heart with an ultrasound? Or if you have a broken leg, maybe their free speech says they don't want to tell you that you have a broken leg, so they just tell you to go home on it. Or maybe a compound fracture of the wrist, a bone sticking out. You know what? I don't feel like telling you that's broken, so I'm not going to tell you. That's right. It's the free speech of the doctor to not tell you there are other options. That sounds completely reasonable if you're about to kill a child. In fact, the feds have been pushing, and Planned Parenthood have been pushing, the Eugenics League, they changed their name, they've been pushing and have gotten it successfully passed in many states to ban these mall kiosks that show you a 3D shot of your baby. They have kiosks in malls, and then they send you to their facility to actually do the scan. They claimed it was medically dangerous, maybe. Or in other states, they claimed, well, you're not a medical company, so you're cutting in on the medical mafia, so we're going to get laws passed. A whole bunch of states have done this so you can't see the baby. It's okay to kill them, but we're not going to show you the baby. In fact, most medical centers will not even show you a 3D shot, even though for decades the ultrasounds all basically have it. There's the headline, FDA warns against keepsake ultrasounds. Oh, it's safe when the hospitals do it over and over again, when the doctor does it over and over again. But when